On June 1st, 2026, GitHub changed how it charges for Copilot, its AI coding assistant. The price on the page did not move. What moved was underneath it. Every plan now carries a balance, and most of what the assistant does draws that balance down. That is one product changing one billing page, and on its own it would be a footnote. But the same move is showing up across the software industry. The sticker price stayed the same. What a dollar of it buys did not. Meanwhile, the raw material keeps getting cheaper. Models are billed by the token, the chunks of text a model reads and writes. In August 2026, the bank Jefferies reported average inference prices from a research firm that tracks them. On May 31st, the average was $2.04 per million tokens. By late July, 145s. Between August 6 and 8, it sat at $1.16, the lowest reading reported that year. So two things are true at the same time. The unit price keeps falling, and the money going into AI keeps climbing. Gartner forecasts $259 trillion of AI spending in 2026, 47% more than the year before. That figure is everything: chips, data centers, servers, software, not a measurement of what customers pay to run models. The gap has a rough size. Take one task answered by a basic chatbot and the same task handled by an agent, a program that reasons over several steps on its own. Gartner's estimate is that the agent version costs the provider at least 5 times as much, and often more as the task gets complex. 5 is the floor here, not the number. The cause is worth naming precisely, because 3 familiar suspects get reached for first: greedy pricing, a chip shortage, inflation. Those forces can matter, and none of them is being ruled out of the world here. They are just not what is happening in this chain. A more complex job buys far more tokens than the same job used to. A chatbot answers you once. An agent does not. It plans the steps, calls a tool, reads the result, then checks whether its own answer is any good. Sometimes it hands the job to another agent. Those steps can trigger additional model calls and therefore additional token use. Gartner's estimate is that agentic reasoning raises the provider's inference cost at least 5-fold. You asked once. The system answered itself several times first. Gartner has a name for this. It calls it the inference paradox. Inference is just the running of a model, the part somebody pays for every single time you use it. Better economics make more ambitious products possible, and the products then eat the saving. Their analyst Will Sommer put it plainly. Economists have watched a version of this before. In 1865, William Stanley Jevons noticed something about steam engines. As they got more efficient, the coal needed for a unit of work fell. Britain's total coal use rose anyway. It burned more, not less, because cheapness invited uses nobody had bothered with. That is an analogy rather than a measurement, but it is the same shape. Which brings us to what is actually shifting, because this looks like a familiar next shift in how some software is priced. In the 90s, you bought a license once. Then software moved to a seat you rented by the month, and one more user cost the vendor almost nothing, which is exactly why a flat price worked. Then Copilot moved on to a balance, and several vendors already charge per outcome, conversation, or session. The mechanism underneath is short. Cheaper tokens make bigger jobs worth trying. Bigger jobs burn far more tokens per user. So one customer's cost stops resembling another customer's, and the gap between a light user and a heavy one becomes something finance notices. And once that spread is wide enough, a flat price cannot cover both of them. Somebody has to absorb the difference, and the industry has decided who. GitHub's version of that is easy to read. The plan price did not change. $10 on Pro, $39 on Pro Plus, and that same amount now arrives each month as a balance. Chat, agents, and code review are drawn from it. Code completions, the thing most people use all day, are never charged. And once the balance is gone, what happens next depends on budget controls and on whether more credits get bought. On a business plan, an administrator decides whether to allow usage at published rates or cap the spend. The flat price used to answer that question. Watch which prices actually fall. On July 30th, 2026, OpenAI cut its cheap tier, Luna, by 80%. The middle tier, Terra, came down 20%. The flagship Sol did not move at all, $5 in, $30 out, exactly where it started. At least in this pricing move, the pressure was concentrated at the bottom of the ladder. Whether the top rung holds there, nobody knows yet. So an average price is a misleading thing to quote. On April 22nd, 2026, the same index had frontier models at $420 per $1 million tokens and open weight models at 0.85. These are distinct segments with a large price gap. A single blended average can hide that difference. And the meter does not stop at tokens. Customer service vendors went a step further and started charging per outcome, per conversation, or per session. Intercom's Fin bills $0.99 for a conversation it resolved without a human. Salesforce Agentforce lists 2.2 hours of conversation. Freshworks sells AI agent sessions at $49 per 100. Zendesk charges for a resolution too, but only once a separate check confirms it. Increasingly, what you buy is units of work, one at a time. On a seat, the vendor absorbed the customers who use the product heavily. On a meter, more of that variance moves to you, and more of the cost is known afterwards. One price for everyone becomes a price shaped by your own usage. This is a shift in degree rather than a clean handover, and vendors can still cap, pool, or subsidize what you use. The ceiling used to be the plan. Now it is whatever your budget allows. Metering does something a flat price never did. It puts a running number on how hard the model thought about your question. Once that number exists, somebody has to decide how much thinking your problem gets. Effort settings, model routing, usage limits, the quiet choice of which model answers you on a Tuesday afternoon, all of that looks like product design. Underneath, it is a budget decision. There is a quieter consequence in here, and it decides what gets built at all. A task is worth automating only if the automation costs less than the work it saves. Agents raise the cost side of that sum, sometimes by a lot. So, the cheap, low-value work that looked automatable falls back below the line. What AI actually ends up doing gets set by price as much as by capability. No one has shown that line moving, so this is an argument about where the line sits rather than a finding, and I would hold it loosely. Buyers are making one specific mistake, and it has a label, the token deflation illusion. Prices are falling, so budgets get planned as though the bill will fall too. That assumption can fail when cheaper tokens enable more expensive workflows. Gartner's own numbers have token costs dropping 95% by 2030, and the cost of an agent workflow rising more than fivefold by 2028, both at once. It is worth separating what is measured from what is forecast. The falling unit price is measured every trading day. The repricing is real and dated. GitHub in June, the outcome sellers across 2026. What is not measured is that anybody's total bill has already risen because of it. The fivefold number is a forecast, and forecasts about 2028 are educated guesses. This reading is wrong if workflow complexity and token use do not grow enough to outrun the falling unit price. It is also wrong if metered plans quietly go back to flat. Software spent 30 years teaching everyone that the price on the plan is the price you pay. AI is unteaching that, one billing page at a time. And I'm curious where you have already run into it. Has anything you use moved from a flat monthly price to a balance, a credit, or a charge per result? Tell me which product and whether your total went up or down. I read those.